Most men assume the pressure they feel down there after 50 is just something to live with quietly. It almost never has to be. I'm Raymond. I'm 83, and for years I drank exactly the same glass of plain water every single day of my life, because nobody ever told me there was a difference between hydrating and actually supporting the tissue that hydration is supposed to reach. I still drink water every day, obviously. I'm not telling you to stop drinking water, whatever that headline made you think. I'm telling you what I started adding to it, and I still get my checkup every year, still keep my exam on schedule, without a shred of dread walking in the door. A large share of men past 50 deal with some form of an enlarged prostate, and one piece of that puzzle that almost nobody talks about is circulation, how well blood actually moves through that whole pelvic region. What I'm about to walk you through changed how I thought about a glass of water entirely. Here's where my head was for the better part of a decade. I drank water because I was supposed to. 8 glasses a day, that's what everyone says, so I did it, mechanically, without a second thought about what that water was actually doing once it got where it was going. Meanwhile, I was dealing with pressure down there most afternoons, a dull ache that would settle in after sitting too long, and on top of it, a noticeable dip in how things worked in the bedroom. Not gone entirely, just weaker, less certain, the kind of thing a man doesn't bring up to anyone, including his own doctor half the time. I finally did bring it up, and my doctor's answer was honest but rushed. Some of that's just circulation, some of it's the prostate pressing on things as it enlarges, and some of it's just age. 3 separate explanations, stitched together in about 90 seconds, and then on to the next patient. I left with more questions than I walked in with. If it's circulation, why isn't anyone treating it like circulation? If the pressure and the bedroom trouble are connected, why does it feel like 2 totally separate problems nobody's tying together? So I went looking, and here's what actually ties them together. Every part of that pelvic region, the tissue around the prostate, the nerves and blood vessels that run through it, the vessels responsible for the bedroom side of things too, depends on a molecule your body produces called nitric oxide. It's the signal that tells blood vessels to relax and widen, letting blood actually flow through instead of staying restricted. Researchers have known for decades that nitric oxide production naturally declines as men age, and when it declines, everything downstream of it in that region gets less blood flow than it used to, less flow to tissue that's already dealing with inflammation from an enlarging gland, and less flow to the vessels involved in intimacy. It's not 2 separate failures. It's one supply line, running low, showing up in 2 places at once. That reframe was enormous for me, because for years I thought my body had simply broken in 2 unrelated ways at the same time. It hadn't. It was one system, undersupplied, and nobody had ever explained that to me in plain language. There's a piece of this that matters even more the longer I sat with it. The kind of inflammation that comes with an enlarging prostate itself appears to interfere with nitric oxide signaling locally, right in that tissue, on top of whatever's happening with age generally. So the pressure and the swelling aren't just sitting there passively. They're actively working against the very supply line that region needs to stay comfortable and functional. That's a vicious little cycle. And once I understood it, the question stopped being, what pill fixes this, and became something much more useful. Let me slow down on that for a second because it took me a while to really absorb it. Nitric oxide isn't some exotic substance you have to go find in a health food store. Your own body manufactures it constantly, in the lining of your blood vessels, as a kind of ongoing chemical message that says, relax, open up, let the blood through. When you're younger, that message fires strong and steady. As the decades pass, the machinery that produces it simply runs less efficiently, the same way most systems in the body slow down gradually rather than shutting off all at once. Layer chronic pelvic inflammation on top of that natural slowdown, and you've got a region that's asking for more blood flow than ever, because it's swollen, because it's under strain, while receiving less of the signal that would actually deliver it. That mismatch, more than anything else, is what I now believe was sitting underneath both the afternoon pressure and the bedroom trouble the whole time. So what actually supports nitric oxide production safely without some manufactured claim attached to it? For years, one number ran my life, the PSA. It would tick up a point, and I'd lie awake the whole night, certain it meant the worst, picturing the biopsy, the knife, the end of everything. Then someone finally told me the truth no doctor had. That number doesn't measure cancer. It measures your prostate. And as we age, it climbs mostly because the gland is simply enlarging, benign, swollen, and uncomfortable, not the worst. The number was scaring me half to death over something ordinary. And the prescriptions they push to shrink it? They can flatten your drive completely, soften everything, quietly take the man right out of you. I wasn't willing to trade that away. There's a gentle way to support that gland, keep it comfortable, a healthy size, without surrendering any of that. Keep getting checked every year, of course. At 83, that number doesn't own me anymore. I finally have peace. Let me show you what gave it to me in this video. And if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. The answer for me turned out to be genuinely simple, and it's the "add this" from the title, pomegranate. Specifically, unsweetened pomegranate juice or the whole arils added to my water rather than replacing it. Pomegranate is dense in a class of plant compounds called polyphenols, and nutrition researchers have documented that these particular compounds support the body's natural nitric oxide production, which in turn is associated with healthier blood vessel function generally. I want to be precise here, because I don't want to oversell this to you the way I've seen other people oversell it. This is a well-established piece of nutrition science about circulation and vessel health broadly. It is not a treatment for any specific condition, and I'm not going to pretend it is. What it gave me was a genuine, gradual improvement in how that whole region felt. Less of that dull afternoon pressure, and yes, a noticeable return of confidence in the bedroom that I hadn't expected from something as simple as fruit in my water glass. But just like with everything else I've learned at this age, one addition to a water glass wasn't the entire story, and I'd be doing you a disservice if I let you believe it was. The real shift came from treating circulation like a system worth maintaining, not a switch you flip once. First, the pomegranate, daily, in water instead of soda or anything sugary. Second, I started walking for 20 minutes most afternoons. A long-running study that followed tens of thousands of health professionals over years found that men who stayed consistently active reported meaningfully fewer urinary symptoms and slower progression of prostate enlargement than men who stayed sedentary. And regular movement is also one of the best-known ways to support healthy circulation generally. Full stop, no controversy there. Third, I cut back hard on the fried food and the processed meat that used to make up half my plate. Researchers tracking metabolic health have linked that kind of heavy, inflammatory diet to worse prostate symptoms and greater strain on the same blood vessels we're talking about supporting. 3 pieces, stacked, none of them dramatic on their own, all of them working the same supply line from different angles. I also want to be straight with you about the medication conversation because it came up for me too. My doctor and I talked about a prescription for the pressure and the flow issues, and I read through the side effect list the same way I imagine you have. Reduced desire, trouble with intimacy, dryness where you don't want dryness. That's exactly the trait I was trying to avoid, which is part of why I went looking at circulation and inflammation instead of jumping straight to the prescription pad. I never went off anything without talking it through with my doctor first, and I'm not suggesting you do either. What I did was bring this whole approach to her directly and ask if it made sense to run alongside whatever she recommended rather than instead of it. I should also mention beets, because they belong in this same conversation, and I rotate them in alongside the pomegranate rather than relying on just one source. Beets and beet juice are naturally rich in dietary nitrates, which your body converts into nitric oxide through a separate pathway than the polyphenols in pomegranate use. Athletes have used beet juice for years to support blood flow during exertion, and the same basic chemistry applies at 83 sitting in my kitchen as it does to a young runner. It's simply supporting the same supply line through a second route. I don't drink both every single day. Some mornings it's pomegranate in my water, some afternoons it's a small glass of beet juice, and I've come to think of it less like taking a supplement and more like just feeding that supply line from more than one direction. And through every bit of this, I kept my yearly exam. I want to say that plainly and without any hedging, because it matters more than anything else in this video. Nothing here replaces your doctor, your screening schedule, or your exam. This is support that runs alongside medical care, in the passenger seat, never in the driver's seat. These days, I don't think about that pelvic pressure most afternoons at all. It simply isn't loud anymore. My wife and I took a long walk along the water last month. No discomfort, no distraction, just the two of us, present the way we used to be decades ago. I still see my doctor every year, still get every test done, still ask every question I have. I've just stopped dreading the appointment itself. I think of a man named Emmett, 74, spent his career teaching high school science outside Baton Rouge before he retired, who told me he'd all but given up on the bedroom side of things entirely, chalking it up to being just how 74 goes. He was doubtful that pomegranate in his water glass could possibly matter that much, and honestly, I understood the skepticism. It sounds too simple. He tried the whole system anyway, all three pieces together, for about 2 months before he wrote to me again. He said the pressure had eased first, within a few weeks, and the rest followed more gradually after that. He wasn't a different man. He was a more comfortable one, showing up for his life again instead of managing around it. He told me the part that surprised him most wasn't the physical difference. It was how much lighter he felt not carrying around the quiet assumption that this was just a closed chapter of his life. He said it out loud to me once. I didn't know I was allowed to expect more at 74. I think a lot of men feel that way and never say it to anyone. What I want you to walk away with is this. The two things you thought were separate problems may well be one supply line asking for help. Here's what I settled on, a few drops a day. And let me tell you why it works. One compound calms one signal, but a swollen prostate answers when several are calmed at once. The growth signal, the inflammation, the pressure inside it. So what I use concentrates them, working as one, the way the research actually uses them, not a single ingredient pretending to be enough. A gland that stays comfortable and a healthy size, fewer trips, and the quiet of no longer fearing that number. It leaves the man fully intact, none of that flattening the prescriptions can do. It's linked right under this video, go look for yourself. It won't replace your doctor or your yearly check. It supports the biology right alongside them. I'm 83, and that number doesn't own me anymore. I think about the years I spent treating a glass of water as nothing more than a glass of water, never once asking what it could actually be doing for me if I paid attention. And I think about the man I am now, 83, still walking most afternoons, still adding that fruit to my water without a second thought, still comfortable in ways I'd quietly written off as gone for good. That's not youth coming back. That's a supply line, restored enough to let me live in my own body again instead of managing it from a distance. I'm not telling you this is a cure for anything. I'm telling you it's worth understanding before you write off the rest of your life as simply how it is now. So tell me in the comments, did anyone ever explain to you that the pressure and the rest of it might be connected, or did it take you just as long as it took me to figure that out on your own? I read every comment myself. And if this changed how you think about that glass of water sitting next to you right now, subscribe, because there's more of what I've learned, and I want you standing right here with me for it. Keep getting checked every single year, keep your doctor fully in the loop, and don't let quiet pressure convince you that the rest of your life has to feel smaller than it did before.